Hi. So today I'm going to ask some questions, and Vicky, Esther will have a go at it. Okay, so this topic is going to be called lessons in the pandemic.
Yeah.
How we're going to keep the family together. So what are some of the things that you have learned from your own personal experience this period that as a person staying at home during this whole period, how did you keep the atmosphere in check? How was it like for you working from home?
Firstly, I want to thank God, and I want to thank several very special connections I have with some friends and families, particularly a dear friend like you. I think it is very worthwhile for us to have this conversation because I find that this is a time in history that the world is really undergoing a very historical structural disruption globally in many various aspects. On the macro level, it is going through a structural disruption into its fundamental cause and pillars of humanity and pillars of the world principles that we think the world is actually being based on. You know, the market mechanism, the economy, the social structures, how people interact, and even how people look at life and death. And that's why I wanted to share with you your question, that this time of the Singapore soft lockdown, we call it the circuit breaker, was a time for me to go into very deep ponder, very deep thinking about macro, micro, and personal levels in all these various aspects. And I value our conversation now in different questions. I actually spent a lot of time thinking from various aspects: spiritual, political, /government, /country, humanity, /environment. So I could talk onto various aspects because these are the levels that I actually go through thinking. And even on the very social aspect, to answer your questions very quickly, I mean, I can go like a GPSA to talk about it for 3 days. But just to answer a short question, I think it has impacted myself on a very positive level. I took it in my stride. And I see that I wanted to also share because it could be such a positive thing. If people had took that quietness to actually see this disruption, to stop the world and to stop your life, but yet we reassess our life from various angles on a personal level. And I'm talking about person, I'm not even talking about families. Talking on a personal level, how it affects me, right? What goes through my mind. And because I have gone through such a structural, philosophical shift, I'm a changed person. Changed person, I think, because I really see the world as one. And I see social responsibility, family responsibility, and personal responsibility as the utmost thing that's most important in this world. Because we keep saying, oh, responsibility to your teacher, to your mom. Okay, when you cross the road, you know, you have to look through and see turn left, turn right, you know, because you want to cross the road safely, and that's your life. But we look at personal responsibility now, it's impacting every single human being. And nothing has put us as a humanity and this level that our action is impacting on our immediate family and immediate neighbor in our country, and if you look at what's happening right now, that the world is actually burning down and the world is actually on its knees because the pandemic is actually accelerating. And you look at what's happening in America, in London, in South America, it's going to go viral and viral and viral. And because people are having this hope, we keep saying, oh, when this thing is over, what will I do next? Mind you, we are having a presupposition that this will be over. Now what happens if it's not? And if it goes on and on and on? So there are scientists who already proposed that it may go on and on and on, right? And people say that the vaccine is developed. What happens? It can never be developed. The way we think it should be, using historical experience, that vaccines can really stop something like tuberculosis, measles, smallpox, right? What happens if that can never not be developed? So I think I'm going through a very deep structural change in my philosophy because I really feel the fundamental humanity is about responsibility, and people have not seen it in that perspective before. And there's such a huge controversy over mask wearing, not mask, lockdown versus economy, you know. So there's such a huge dichotomy of various viewpoints. But on my level, I give it a lot of thought. Even when I read my articles, I try to shut myself up. I try to shut up my mouth, but the thoughts go into my mind. So on this personal level, I feel that responsibility is number one. Responsibility to your neighbor is number one. And what is the definition of neighbor in the Bible? In the Bible, love your neighbor like yourself. It doesn't mean the person staying beside you only. It means your husband, your wife, your children, your physical neighbor, the people you're working with, and now it goes into the global level. And that's why if it goes on in America and in South America and in Europe, like in what's happening in London now, because there's an easing of the lockdown, all thousands of people rush to the beaches, even when the government says don't do that. You can't stop thousands and thousands of armies of people coming out. Because one thing, self-regulation, self-responsibility is something. Social responsibility, moral duty. People have not woken up to it. So to me, I put this as a realization, as a revelation. And as a friend, I actually try to bring this up to my friends, but I want to do it gently. Because I at one point, emotionally, I became so angry that people never took this seriously. They never took that situation seriously and never took personal responsibility seriously. They never took moral responsibility seriously. And it really burns me. It burns me when people are walking downstairs, because I kind of spy. They're walking down without masks, and there are people who are trying to pick up smoking, who they never smoke just because they didn't want to wear a mask. And people who just go on chain smoking 3 cigarettes, 4 cigarettes just to light up because they just want to be there and not wear a mask. Look at people who are trying to beat the law because they hope no one is watching. What does it say about humanity? Like, you are doing something when no one is watching. I mean, it kind of like burns me. I'm so sorry to say this, but your question has really like touched me, and I'm kind of like looking at this as, are we a humanity that's educated, literate, and wise enough that we do things right even when no one is watching? Even when God is not watching, we do the right thing. We don't need policemen. So that's why when you're asking me, I should say the transformation is the unseen. But there are other aspects that I could share. Physical, family aspects.
So you have learned a lot about the world around you and how we actually are interconnected in many ways. coming back to the question of, in fact, I was thinking just now, this topic should be about lessons in the pandemic, keeping the society together. But I thought you wanted this question to be more about the family, right? So
Yeah, correct.
How has the whole atmosphere been kept in check?
Okay.
Are there family dynamics
Yeah.
because of this situation?
In fact, your psychological change and your philosophical change will impact on the way you live and the way you interact. And in this lockdown, it's a world phenomenon because can you imagine 70% of the planes have stopped. They're all pubs and all. So on a family level, there's a lot of change. I can share with you what are the physical things that I've done to keep me and my family together. Number one, it is easy to go off tangent when you are in a very untested environment in a lockdown. Number one, it was easy for me because I didn't believe in going out without a purpose anyway. I find that staying in a home and doing a lot of reading up, catching up is very important. So what I did in the first thing was to build a momentum in my daily routine. There must be some form of a structure. So I devoted certain things at certain hours that is consequential every day. So it becomes a routine that goes round, and then when this routine becomes comfortable, you look forward to it, you kind of refined it and kind of made it good. So what I did was, my routine was, the first thing I did was to read the Bible, pray. But reading the Bible was important because I spent 1 hour or over an hour to read the Bible. And this is the first time, and that's why this situation and lockdown has given me new insight, because I spend a lot of time reading the Bible, just praying with a sense of expectation. What is God's message for me today? So I spend 1 to 1.5 hours just reading the Bible and praying. And I pray for various people, get my mind in a structure. And then after that, I do my meal. I mean, whatever meal you call it, brunch or between lunch or dinner or whatever, it's just that particular timing, a cycle. Okay, time is, the word time has become irrelevant because you don't know whether it's Monday or Tuesday, whether it's morning or night. So I went through a momentum of a structure to keep the family sanity in check. Because I will do that first, and after that I will do my breakfast lunch, and then I'll do my home cleaning. After that I'll look at my computer, and I'll try to stop reading as much irrelevant news. I will pick up the specific news that I should read. Try not to get too much distracted because I just really wanted focus on God and focus on the spiritual side of things about finding reasons going through this. So I actually did a momentum throughout the day. There's a structured approach. And then I actually had worship songs because I had a friend who actually advised me, why don't you do some worship songs? So I played Rivers in the Desert, and I also played in the background room. And I played throughout the day 24/7 worship, words from the Bible, and sermons 24/7, even during the time that we're sleeping. That sets the mood and atmosphere. Why that? Number one, because we feel helpless. Right? Number two, we're in a shelter. Right? The world is fighting out there, and we have people that are in the front line fighting for us. It's really like a war zone. The world is going crazy and we are being kept safe in a home. What more should we ask for? So I never complain about, okay, we can't go to get pop-out cha, we can't go McDonald's, it's being closed and we can't go shopping. No, but people are out there. So I have this philosophy as a pillar in my mind. We are so blessed to have everything that we have. And every day I wake up and sleep with a heart of thanksgiving. So that atmosphere sets forth the day. And of course, between me and my husband, there are squabbles, right? But my aim was to make this as joyful, as fun as possible. Between both of us, we watch some cartoons, we watch some movies, cooking. I try to do some Instagram videos, and I tried new softwares, and we tried to do some websites. So I try to have some form of an objective throughout the week or throughout the day, and something that we can do together. So it kind of set that as commonality, right? When we do something together, but also sets us apart when we do something different. Like for example, when I'm really reading the Bible for like 1 to 2 hours, and I'm recording my prayers and my Bible reading on my Instagram channel. He will do his stuff and I'll do his stuff. So there are really quiet times between each other that we mentally separate, but physically together. And I think because I also believe in positive influence, I think that kind of helps. Because positive influence, I try to use edification language. Even though we are really like together, we try to show thank you, I appreciate you, I really love you, and we need to continue to thank God and remind each other how much blessings we've got every day, throughout the day, non-stop, just flow. So that kind of kept us going. I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't any squabbles, there are. That's when sometimes the fault lies with me, because I get really impatient. And I think when people check themselves, then they do better each time. So atmosphere-wise, I place God as the center of our lives now, which is such a blessing because there's new revelation, new understanding of ourselves, our families, in terms of relationship, and how to place God as the center of our lives. I mean, it is God's opportunity for us that we place Him as the center of our lives, because everything else shuts down. It's just us and God. It's really just us and God. No other human beings allowed. Your door is shut, your window shut, right? Even the news, you may just want to shut out the news. So that leaves a lot of time, which is what the Bible is saying, renewal. So I took this very positively for my family, that is my husband and I, and myself. I took it very positively, and I find that this is such a huge opportunity. If people can take the situation seriously, and then look at it, because it's so serious. Right now we're at home. Why are we at home? What can we do to elevate ourselves? That historically, this has never happened, and that's why I feel it's so important to share. I'm very sure everyone has got their own stories to share. So these are episodes that I was telling you, the circular structure that I structured for our daily living, and the way I kind of calibrated the whole atmosphere, putting God first, focusing on God. And I wouldn't have done that at all. I mean, to be truthful and honest to you, I wouldn't have done that at all. If it hadn't been the grace of God to give humanity this opportunity to be really on their knees.
Yeah, we should be very grateful. Okay, so with that, so can you just share, was it difficult or easy? How much success you feel that you have reached? And has it been successful so far? What like you shared, there have been days that didn't go as planned, and you've been impatient.
Yeah, I think that the episodes of being Flare Up was about 3 episodes so far. And these 3 episodes which is not uncommon in many families. But I always feel that it's always a time for evaluation. But on the whole, I think we have elevated our sense of awareness, vigilance, even between how we handle each other within the family. And I think it is to me it is a very successful time, because I feel that because you are so close to each other in a household that you can't go out, but that sense of appreciating each other and telling each other the edification energy for each other and the encouragement is so important. I mean, there are people who go depressed, there are. So for me, I couldn't say anything about clinical depression, but I would say that only God really helped me during this time. And I found joy. I really found joy. I couldn't even say how, I really found that joy of just being locked down because of that spiritual awakening. And I just hope that the world can hear this.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, yeah, maybe with that, you want to describe one word, how you see yourself moving forward?
I will continue staying in my house. Number one, we have to be very clear about being in fear and anxiety versus responsibility, and having the global perspective in check. I think the smartest people are still staying home. I mean, if you look at the world's richest people, they will stay in the mountain homes. They will not even go out because they want to safeguard themselves. And the richest and the smartest people buy most insurance for themselves. I mean, it's about insurance. It's about being responsible for my neighbor. And my neighbor means I was sending my husband, my family, my physical neighbor. Not going out unnecessarily. Being very careful and vigilant and spreading that word of understanding about the latest development with people that I think
Okay.
do. So one word is...
So your word is continue, carry on.
responsibility.
Okay, so that's your personal agenda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.